Okay. Let me fix something then. Alrighty. Yep, I can be heard. Yeah, alright. So, I'm back. More Witch of the Holy Night, or excuse me, Witch on the Holy Night. I, haven't played this game in almost a week because I've just been busy, but finally got the chance to play it, and hopefully this will be a long stream. Like, 2 to 3 hours maybe. I want to get some progress on this game, but, whatever comes, whatever comes. Feeling a lot better. Not 100%. Definitely say like 90% if anything. But I should be better to commentate more, so we're just gonna see what happens. Sorry for any background noise. I'm recording during the day, or excuse me, streaming during the day, so you might hear some people come in and out. Might hear some sounds. Sorry about that, but we're back at it. We're back at it. Gotta remember, I gotta read. Souyjuro sighed listlessly. Some of these words I never said out loud. Like I recognize listlessly. If you asked me to define it, I could not tell you. But Jim and the P number 9 again. But if you ask me to define it, could not tell you. I just know I've seen it before. He looked down at the winter schoolyard below, lost in thought. December was written on a corner of the chalkboard. He could not believe 10 days had already passed since he transferred to school. The last vestiges of autumn had faded with the change of the month. The trees were all but barren, and the ground below them a mat of fallen leaves. Fourth period was classics. An elderly teacher stood at the lectern and rambled on. When he had finally gotten used to the classroom, he still had a long way to go to get up to speed in his classes. Didn't get good sleep yesterday. Sorry if I yawned. Lacking even the basic understanding most students learn in their early scholastic life, it was a battle for Souyjuro to keep up. Even if he was unable to grasp all the content right away, he at least tried to memorize everything in the hope that he could make use of it down the road. Which is why losing himself in his thoughts was about the last thing he should have been doing. He would have normally chastised himself for daydreaming, but troublingly, he was unable to concentrate in class today. Souyjuro could not place the source of his lack of concentration. Could not have been the winter in the city. It could not have been the winter in the city. It was much milder in the mountains. Neither was his part-time job particularly tiring. He was not any more physically fatigued than the average student. Oh man. So that could not have been it either. Others might conclude that it was because the courses were boring, but that seemed to be off the mark too. Souyjuro did not share his classmates' opinion about their classes. On the contrary, he rather enjoyed his class time. No, his frame of mind was not to blame either. Trying to figure out what was wrong only made him more depressed. Who is this? Who's that in front of him? He scolded himself and turned his attention to the chalkboard. The rhythmic ticks of the chalk were sending him into a slumber, but he somehow managed to resist their lullaby. I remember in my high school, we didn't use chalk. We used markers, dry erase markers. And of course, because that's how it's been for a while. I think this game, the time period is set in is like the 2000s, 90s, around there. And it's in a rural Japan, so different culture, different time period. So I can't speak on if the U.S. did that in the 90s as well, because I wasn't alive back then. But still, just an interesting difference. And yet he still was unable to focus on the class. Souyjuro reflected silently as was his custom, and sighed inwardly. Deep down, he knew the real source of his agitation. The events of the previous night were the only thing it could be. With the chime to signal the end of the class, The teacher bowed and exited into the hallway. To see him off, the 30 or so students all stood up from their desks. The clock. Here. The clock, which had seemed to slow dramatically around 11:30, now struck noon. Oh, it's that guy. I know this guy. The tension seemed to fade from the room all at once. The release from a difficult lesson was the start of lunchtime, the highlight of school life. Misaki High's cafeteria was not particularly known for its quality of food. Complaints that the quality was below that of a private school went unheeded, and the same unique flavors appeared on the menu each and every day. Private school prices coupled with subpar quality led the majority of students to opt for bucks lunch instead. Souyjuro's Class 2C was no exception. The boys muscled as many as 10 desks into what resembled a long dining table. Conversely, the girls divided themselves into smaller tables of 2 or 3 desks with practice ease to start chatting with their cliques. That's so funny, bro. Just like the Last Supper length of table is hilarious. Not a single student wasted even a second of their precious lunchtime. Where both sides differed in method, they shared a common goal. Souyjuro was struck dumb. Never seen it written like that. Weird. By the efficiency of the transformation. After 10 days, he was unable to keep pace with the rest of the class. Oh man. And remained seated where he had sat during the previous period. Big man Blastoise, big man Blastoise. There you go. Okay. Gotta make sure I have my comments up. Yeah. The voice came from the large makeshift dining table near the window. How do you pronounce that? Hosuke Kinomi? Hosuke Kinomi. Sorry if I'm butchering that. Was beckoning him over while leaning back in his chair, in a way that looked like he could fall backward at any second. He was regularly shot down by others in the class for being lazy and crass, but his earnest nature kept him from getting on anyone's bad side. There's something could be said for not being so forthcoming all the time, though. It seemed his endgame was to find someone who might take pity on him and trade him for something better. The two of them worked at the same restaurant, so he was one of the few people Souyjuro knew before starting school. He was also the reason Souyjuro was able to learn the true meaning of the phrase, "Can't live with him, can't live without him." The boys usually passed the time by making fun of each other's lunches, but today they were uniting against a common foe. A pyramid of countless cans stood in front of the middle of the table. They had all been taken from the pantry of a certain student's house, and the expiration dates on them had all been scribbled out without a marker. With a marker. Okay. The boys united as one and hoisted their can openers into the air. Quite an inexplicably excited group of guys. The real motivation seemed to be to spread pain. But moved by their energy and conceding defeat, Souyjuro got up from his seat and joined them. And before he could... Oh, I think I know who this is too. Another interested party joined the fray. A girl with short but stylish hair caught out to him. She also tried to get Souyjuro to join the track and field club several days earlier. He answered with a troubled look on his face. Is this just... Does she not have a face portrait? Huh. Oh, never mind, I guess not. Because she isn't important. On her table was nothing but a pile of fruit Souyjuro had never seen before. The members of the fruit group, what a name, bro, pumped their fists in unison at the last delicacy. Souyjuro couldn't keep track of all the voices flying across the room. It's just papaya, there's nothing wrong with it. That being said, he found it difficult to refuse them outright. His tendency to accept others' goodwill at face value occasionally left him frozen with indecision. Not accustomed to regular human interaction, he was unable to judge when it was or was not appropriate to turn someone down. Someone tapped the lost little lamb on his shoulder. This guy I know. I'm not gonna say his name, but this guy I do know. Yep. Kaijo! Souyjuro turned around to see a boy about a head taller than him. His long hair, while unkempt, had been brushed back, giving it an appealingly winsome look. His attractive features belied the contempt for the classroom his eyes carried. Unlike the perpetually dopey-looking Souyjuro, he was an extremely attractive boy, capable of captivating anyone who so much as glanced at him. In most cases, such a boy's presence would be met with awe and respect. However, what? I didn't replay it. They continued to give him a hard time. Souyjuro could not help but feel sorry for him. The class vice president, on the other hand, showed absolutely no reaction whatsoever. Light work, no reaction. He glared at them with a bored look and simply raised his voice. The menacing growl in his voice contrasted greatly with the boy's well-constructed looks. Both Team Can and Team Fruit's words were doused like a fire being smothered. This was partly due to the fear of the boy, but mostly due to the fear of the special winter cleaning team. Yes, the special winter cleaning team. Joining meant spending part of your winter break cleaning up the old school building and mountainous rear courtyard that had been neglected by the previous two student councils. It was a form of legalized torture that could have potentially ruined 3 whole days of your winter break. And forget about any compensation in the form of extra credits. No, it was pointless volunteer work for a student council project. It was practically a miracle that they had found even a single volunteer. All the students but one scuffled away. The mob meekly scurried away. Souyjuro turned to join them, but as he did, "Why are you so close?" The hand on his shoulder held him in place. Kenobi cursed him under his breath to his friends the second the vice president turned to go. Oh, this dude's a demon. Oh my gosh. The vice president must have heard everything Kavodi said. Excuse me, Kenomi said because he gave a thumbs up before figuratively jabbing it in his eye. The problem child of Class C laughed merrily. Kenobi's terrified shrieking continued behind them as the vice president Souyjuro left the classroom. Alright, cool. Meeting a lot of characters already. That was a good place to stop yesterday. Or excuse me, not yesterday. Whenever I stopped. Junin Hayundayo. The two entered the empty student council room. Misaki High's student council had the use of 2 rooms. One was a large office space specifically made for the student council. The second was an archive room, once used as a preparatory office for math courses. As the latter of the two, the walls were lined with densely packed shelves, making an already cramped room seem even more confined. For this reason, it served more as a private refuge for the student council. The 2 students sat across from each other. Tobimaru Tsukiji. There you go, Tobimaru Tsukiji. Yep, that's his name, Tobimaru. So he was the son of the chairman of Misaki High School and the vice president of its student council, or school council. Like Souyjuro, he was in his 2nd year, and first met the transfer student a week earlier. When the task of looking after him was dumped onto the student council. As self-deprecating as his words were, he hardly seemed dissatisfied with the arrangement. He took a sack from his pocket and grimaced at it before taking a bite. The 100-calorie energy bar sacrificed the flavor for efficacy, but somehow not enough to prevent him from gnawing on it like a piece of jerky. Souyjuro sat in the chair with a concerned look on his face. He's not wrong. Mountain dogs, it's just like wild dogs in general are terrifying. Let me see. Oh man, excuse me. Alright, Soujuro opened his lunch as he spoke. He said the bright green cloth, three beautifully made triangular rice balls. Soujuro was always confounded by phrasing that could be interpreted in multiple ways. Euphemisms and subtle sarcasm were often lost on him. It was only on rare occasions, like this one, that he chose to confirm what was being said. Tobimaro had come to suspect that Soujuro had a very black and white way of seeing things. Soujuro stared at the energy bar with a curious look on his face. Tobimaro quickly finished off his bar, put another one on the table, and grabbed one of Sojuro's rice balls. Soujuro failed to notice the rudeness of the forced exchange, and gave the pro-offered energy bar a try. Excuse me, wow. Saw notifications, so I actually, did it even show up? Couldn't even tell you. Out of principle, Soujuro labeled over his energy bar, cringing all the way. Excuse me, all the while. He was both curious at the unknown and loath to leave something unfinished. Tobimaro turned his eyes up to the ceiling, unable to handle Sojuro's carefree smile. As absent-minded as Soujuro might have been, his expressions were nonetheless incredibly earnest. It was like poison to someone as self-absorbed as Tobimaro. He took a bite from the rice ball to steer himself away from such thoughts. Though now cold, the rice had managed to maintain its freshness, startling Tobimaro. Oh. It's so funny. I saw a video, and this isn't related, but it was Jordan Lucas, and it was like a video from like, shoot, 10 years ago, somewhere around there. But it was him in 2006, and one of his friends was recording him, or someone that was with him, and he just spit like 16 bars, like 32 bars, just off the top. And it was so crazy because man was like 17 when he did that, and it was so dope because like you can tell the influence, like that's Eminem, Slim Shady type influence, but it was also in 2006, so it's just like, yo, this is kind of fire. This is such a relic of its time. It's like, man, I can't even imagine. I was 4 years old when that was made. Insane. Tomura stopped himself, realizing how ridiculous he sounded. Soujiro, rightly so, knew it was nothing to get this upset over. Oh, Tomura's handsome face went dark. He snatched another bite of the rice ball while grumbling under his breath. There it was again. Rice grains that were just dry enough to be fresh and tender in the mouth. A moral setup betrayed its humble description, which must have been delicately molded by a master chef rather than haphazardly clumped into a ball. Oh. That's cute. That's so cute. It was only natural to inquire about the unexpectedly delicious bite. Toby Bar is so cool. He had been nibbling her on the edges and had not yet reached its center. The vice president choked on his cough. He had assumed that Sojo would prefer earthy ingredients instead of seafood on account of his mountain life, but he had never expected that he would use grasshoppers. They locked eyes for a moment. Okay. Yeah, this is awesome. As curious as those words were, Toby Bar decided to let him go. Sojo closed his eyes and continued to chew on his rice ball. Tobiraro watched incredulously as Sojiro made no attempt to hide his disapproval. Sojiro continued chewing. The country boy's silent protest said all that needed to be said. The vice president suddenly looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Oh, that is three people. Oh, sorry. Toby Bar flew out of his chair and violently shook Sojiro by the shoulders. Sojiro opened his eyes. Why do you sit down so hard, bro? Toby regained his composure and sat down after a moment's thought. You were gossiping the whole time. Bad mouthing Alco the whole lunch period. Toby reassured himself that it was in Soldier's best interest as a young man enough. Little did they know that soon after they would go crazy for an entirely different reason. Incidentally, Tobimaro decided to gloss over the fact that the student was also the former student council president. To be fair, that is creepy. That's really creepy. A month of house arrest? Souyjuro tilted his head to the side in confusion. Tobimaro had lost him with that comment. He tilted his head again, this time to the other side. Oh. Hold on. Dog it up. It tilted his head even further. What Tobimaro was saying sounded off, but Souyjuro decided not to press the matter. All the more because he found many of his own emotions towards Aoko Awazaki to be incomprehensible. That was because they had not truly spoken to each other since the day she showed him around. Every time Souyjuro tried to talk to her, she immediately got up and left. As fate would have it, they ended up working together that recent Sunday, but made only idle chatter on the way back. His tone was measured and sincere. Tobimaro sighed with a tinge of regret. If not for those words, he could have introduced Soujiro to a more suitable girl with whom he could have lived out the rest of his school days in peace. He never went to such lengths for his other friends. Generally speaking, if it was of some benefit to him, he was unafraid of exploiting another. If they were of no use, he didn't bother getting involved with them. That was how Tsukiji operated. Soujiro happened to be the type of person who provided no benefit to Tobimaro, and somehow sparked in him a desire to help. It's not that friendship was completely alien to him. He just did not have many people he felt that close to. So if Soujiro had really fallen for Aoko, it was on his place, as a friend, to try to change his mind. Tobimaru's shoulders slumped. It sounded like it sounded like a sophism to Tobimaru, but he had no counterpoint to offer. Now, Tobimaru was just thinking about one major point during this whole conversation. Namely, that Soujiro was not head over heels in love with Aoko and hoped to go steady with her. He merely liked her as a person. Nobody could have foreseen the massive calamity that could be caused by this simple misunderstanding. That I already knew too. I knew that Soujiro didn't like her as like a romantically. He just thinks she's a cool person. That's it. Like that's really it. I got the one piece of advice. He spoke with a pained sigh as if opening old wounds from the past. That's interesting because, like, you know, a lot of guys that I know have that moral code of like never hit a woman. It's like, you look at it, it's like on one hand, it's like, it's respectable, taking care of the people that you love and stuff like that. But it's also some people view it as sexist because it's not equal. But here it's just like the first thing I thought of was like he swung at a girl, but then I realized like, oh shoot, it's because he didn't look at her as a girl. They're equals. They're equals because they fight together on this battle that is the student council. And so it's interesting to look at it like that. Like still, like, he hit somebody. No matter if she's a girl or not, he still hit somebody. And he like had full intention to hurt them too. So it's not a good reflection of character. But it's just interesting, like that thought process that came across my mind. He had a distant look in his eyes as his words trailed off. Soujiro sighed at his story. He then said with absolute confidence, Clearly, he had missed the point entirely. Look at disappointment flitter across Sojuro's face. Tobimaro revised his opinion. Soujiro was something of a simpleton, but there was a quality to him that Tobimaro could not quite place. Soujiro answered. Soujiro answered that he would keep it in mind as he looked at the clock. They had been talking for a while. Lunch was almost over. Why had Tobimaro even brought here in the first place? Soujiro tilted his head in wonder but shook it off to deal with the more pressing matter at hand. Tobimaro sat up straight, having never seen Sojuro's face look so serious before. Soujiro sat aside his rice ball and cleared his throat. He spoke solemnly, and as carefully as possible, he recounted what had occurred the night before. Let's see, place a bookmark right here. Because I gotta use the bathroom, so give me 1 second. Oh, I forgot to pee. That's fine. Alrighty, back at it. Alrighty. It was 10 to 12 and lunchtime was quickly coming to an end. Her face popped into Class C, as lightly as ever, as if it were an everyday occurrence. Alka Ozaki announced her presence. While Alka was a part of Class C, she didn't let it bother her as she casually entered the room. In contrast, the baby birds who had been so noisily chirping while eating lunch quickly quieted and began to rearrange their seats. Whoa, 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 whoa. Relax. She bristled internally before looking around the room. She could not see the male students, she came to find. He hardly stood out, so she thought he might be hidden in a corner somewhere, but that appeared to not be the case. Ako kept her tone professional. The boy was shocked that she actually knew his name. One might think that the reason students referred to Tobimaru Tsukiji by a royal title is because he was the chairman's son, but it was because he actually looked like royalty. In fact, the vice president was said to have taken a liking to the title. She seemed surprised. The class seemed surprised at her surprise. Ever recomposed themselves, Classy started chatting again. Ako listened for a bit before turning around and leaving the class with a "eat later." How the Souyjuro talk finished as quickly as it started. Lunchtime was coming to a close in the student classroom. Souyjuro, having told his story, was smiling in satisfaction. Tobimaru, sitting across from him, was frowning. Souyjuro told his yarn as fast as he could. Tobimaru fingered his brow as if he was angry or concerned. His response only confirmed Tobimaru's suspicions. It had been one of the two possible conclusions. That what Souyjuro had just told him was true, or that Souyjuro was just so tired that I must have been hallucinating at the time. Tobimaru sincerely hoped it was the latter. Hearing this suggestion, Tobimaru's face darkened. As bitter as Tobimaru's words might have sounded to most, Souyjuro saw them whole. Whoa, what the heck? Wait. Oh, wow. Cool. Satisfied, Souyjuro finished off his last rice ball and nearly folded the cloth. That face was as serious as it was. That that his face was as serious as it was made Tobirama realize just how big of a culture shock Soujiro must have been experiencing. Living up in the mountains with no electricity, in a place where the night sky was at, was at, wow, okay, in a place where the night sky was as it always had been, where humans were just one more organism in nature's garden. It makes sense that those conditions would create a boy like him. The idea of children growing up so poor was an appealing one, but maybe it was natural to forgo civilization when your population was so small. Or perhaps it was so simple. It was so simple a world that excessive knowledge was deemed irrelevant. It was precisely because city life offered him so much that was impossible to pass up till now that he had come to the conclusion that anything was possible here. But Soujiro seemed unsure. And on Tobimaru's part, there were things to Soujiro's story that he found hard to swallow. Whether true or not, the incident Soujiro had described was disturbing. As a newcomer to the town, Soujiro assumed that everyone his age was a student at the school. For better or worse, he was right. Soujiro bobbed his head up and down as he listened to the disbelief in Tobimaru's voice. Hearing it repeated by someone else, he could see how someone might think he was taking him for a ride. Wow, I forgot. Winter break was just around the corner, and the end of term exams were about a week away. Both were proving formidable opponents for Soujiro. Oh. He shrugged helplessly. It was obvious from his words that he had been busy. Even if he was not going crazy, lack of sleep could have caused him to daydream, even if all this did go down in the middle of the night. Soujiro nodded with a pained look on his face. What was strange, however, was that he did not look the least bit tired. Give me 1 second. starting to get tired, honestly. But let's see, how long have I been going for? 2 hours already? Are you serious? Yo, I have made almost no progress. Like, lit. No, yeah, I'm about to say there's no way it was 2 hours. It's at least only been one. Yeah. All right. Well then, we'll just see. We'll just see how it goes. I guess. See how it goes. Where's Here it is. All right. Alrighty. Um, where's the game? As he answered, Souyjuro looked up at the clock on the wall. Lunchtime was almost over. Souyjuro watched as Tobimaru made a gesture that seemed to lament the life of a student council member. His eyes looked as if they were looking at a piece of art and not understanding its value. The vice president angrily defended himself as he stood up. The transfer student merely gazed at him, unfazed. Tojimaru was not at all like what I expected him, or what I thought he would be. Well, he must have been joking. Souyjuro took his tone to be completely sincere. He listened as he envied Tobimaru's ability to be so open about his feelings. From his frame of reference, there was nothing he could do but take Tobimaru for his word. When the door to the student council room flew open, washing away Sojuro's half-hearted response to his friend. This frosty statement destroyed the warm atmosphere of the room. And it also marked the abrupt end to Tobimaru Tsukishi's reign there. Not missing a beat, Aoko Aozaki stepped into the room, or inside her room. Well, excuse me. Inside the room. Her dark hair was slightly disheveled, as if she had been running. Her gaze missed the sitting Soujiro entirely, was focused completely on the ranting vice president. Sojo quietly got up to head back to his classroom. Gambare. Oh, look at that. 4 people. Hello. Well, one of them being me, but still. That's cold, man. I wonder, do I actually configure audio? That's so funny. If I wanted to, I could turn off the voices and I could just voice that myself, but that'd be a disservice to the game, so I wouldn't want to do that. Tobimaro grumbled in front of Alko. He cut himself off. Alko briefly shifted her gaze to Soujiro. Not a complaint. It was her honest opinion. Her eyes shimmered with a murderous glee. It was slightly different from the more sullen gaze to which Tobimaro had grown accustomed to. For whatever reason, Alko's mood seemed worse than usual. Alko asked abruptly. Soujiro frowned a little before saying he was fine with either one. Oh, okay. A succinct reply, one that left no room for Soujiro to object. That's a horrible rule. When I was in high school, I did not do this at all. I went home and went to bed, bro. I was tired. See? Wow. An equally terse response. She was typically to the point, but Tobimaro got the impression that she was expressly trying to keep her interaction with Soujiro short. They stared at each other in silence. Tobimaro stood breathlessly silent under silence until Soujiro broke the impasse. Oh. That's a lot longer than I thought that sentence was going to be. Brother man. There you go. Soujiro stood up from his seat. He walked past Alko and into the hallway. He did his best to force a smile before leaving the student council room. That was a long scene, and it's still not over. While watching the events play out, Tobimaro found himself deeply impressed with Soujiro. He could tell from Alko's behavior that she was trying to get a rise out of Soujiro. Soujiro, on the other hand, didn't react. Heedless of what Alko was doing. He simply went on his way. To Tobimaro, it was hard to believe that Soujiro had not taken offense. From his point of view, Soujiro's poker face had been the performance of a lifetime. He looked at Alko curiously. Oh man, that's so funny. That's so funny, bro. Alko stood completely still, staring at the wall. Alko showed no response. Her fury echoed across the student council room. It was a beautiful sound that could be heard into the hallway and made Tobimaro's red from earlier pale in comparison. Perhaps his shouting was still ringing in his ears. He was just the type to answer a shout with a shout, but he shot back reflexively. Based on that statement, Alka must have been under the assumption that dating was the act of two lovers whispering nonsense to each other. There's only one thing that Tokimaro could be talking about: the incident that occurred in the student council room this past summer. As the conversation wore on, Alka's bitterest aura began to fade, and her sharp gaze gave way to a calmer demeanor rarely seen from her. It was quite possible that nobody besides Tobibaro had ever seen this side of her at school before. That's a lot shorter than I thought it would be. Despite his ranting, his face betrayed a touch of nostalgia. Alko, on the other hand, was scowling. Oh. I can't believe it's sexy red. Hako let out a sigh, as if relieved that Tobibaro had not told Souyjuro the rest of the story. Even she wasn't sure why. Since that day, Tobibaro has served as the vice president to the person who usurped him from the role. Tobibaro shoot Akko away like an annoying pest. It was a typical example of crude verbal abuse they exchanged on a daily basis, with a wittiness that only two longtime foes could manage. He stopped himself before he said any more. He knew better than to let slip the fact that Sojo had a thing for Alco. Everyone knew guys could just tell each other out like that, even if it was all, in truth, a misunderstanding. He wanted to retort that she was more like a queen than a princess, but he'd come to know her too well over the past 2 years to dig himself into a hole like that. Kind of, kind of toxic mindset is this? She said casually, having regained her composure. Toyomaro could not follow her reasoning at all. Toyomaro was used to Alco's erratic trains of thought, but hating Sojo for no reason seemed needlessly cruel. His friend's naive and innocent face came to mind, and then he blurted. His vile silence had lasted not even 2 minutes. He tried to take it back, but it was too late. She had heard his words loud and clear. All he could hope for now was that she would take it well. What? Stone cold Alco. Toyomaro found himself filled with indignation at how detached Alco was being. Shout out Soujiro, Sonoji. He shouted, his face the embodiment of sincerity. How's sincerity, right? Yeah, spilling his friend's secret. Well, actually, no, he never said it was a secret, so it's not like this matters to him. If anything, yeah, again, it's Tobimaru misunderstanding the situation. He's reading the wrong room. There's a face. Oh, excuse me. Alco gave a blank stare. Her face is someone who had lost her wallet hours earlier and was only just realizing it now. The first instant of doubt that ushers into reality of the situation. But an instant is all it was. She answered coolly, as if she had no idea why it should matter to her at all. Toyomaro gave up any pretense of masculine solidarity and fired back hard. So mean. So mean. She ruthlessly cut him off. Thinking of the boys who still harbored unrequited love for Alco, Toyomaro tried hard to come up with a name befitting for the demoness in front of him. He's a good dude. He's a good you. He a good you. She laughed as a fiendish smile adorned her face. Tobimaru repented to God, whoever and wherever he or she may be, forever bringing up love or Alco's love life. Cool. Oh my goodness. She was smiling, but Tobimaru wished she'd at least try to hide the bloodlust. Ako nodded with satisfaction as she listened to Tobimaru's hesitant answer. Had this been in writing, the chillingly sweet tone of her words could have been sighed with a heart. Whether angry or happy, Ako spoke in a disturbingly cute manner when she was in a heightened emotional state. Toyomaru took note of this new discovery, or rather it did nothing to get him out of the situation. He did this to himself. He knew that it was a topic he would be better off avoiding, but he tried asking anyways. The bonds between men, at times, shine more beautifully than a pearl. Perhaps to placate Tobimaru, Ako paused in contemplation before she answered. Giving it a moment without immediately blurting out a response meant that not even he could complain. Thinking that it would be the end of it, Toyomaru looked up towards the ceiling and silently apologized to Souyjuro. However, his final sentence appeared to have piqued Ako's interest. Whoa. However, oh, every time, man. Her faux cheer had vanished, but I didn't pick up on this. Toyomaru answered nonchalantly. Toyomaru was still in disbelief that Souyjuro had been charmed by Ako's appearance, so he purposely left that part out. Oh my goodness. She's gonna kill him, bro. She's gonna murder him. Toyomaru finally noticed a shift in Ako's demeanor. Oh. So great was her ire that the gnashing of her teeth was audible. The irritation seethed until it reached a point that Ako forgot Toyomaru was even in the room. Wow. Toyomaru looked heavenward for forgiveness, sensing that he brought further calamity down on Sojuro's head. Oh my goodness. Toyomaru looked away as if to indicate that he'd rather not know, but Ako ignored him and began to grumble venomously. Glancing idly up at the clock, Toyomaru thought the last part just sounded like misplaced anger. And how was that? 1 o'clock had come and gone. Oh, that's funny. She looked like she was on the verge of tears as she shouted and pulled out her necktie. Oh, she grabbed him. Yeah. Yeah, hold on, wait. She looked like she was on the verge of tears as she shouted and grabbed and pulled at his necktie. Toyomaru raised his hands in mock surrender, a gesture reserved only for the true victor. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, tell me why, you legend, you horrible legend. Oh my gosh, she tied his leg tie around his neck with a yank. The vice president smiled a thuggish grin, as if her reaction made his victory that much sweeter. Oh man. Oh man, that's funny. Fujishiro had one of the longest tenures at the school, so it's only natural she would be in charge of teaching the classics. Oh my goodness, she's seething, bro. She's balding. She choked him even harder with his necktie as Uncle put words into action and mercilessly strangled Tobimaru. He saw his lash flash before his eyes. Oh my gosh, what's going on? Uncle glanced up at the clock. It was still only 1:07. Her route was from the student council room to the second floor, or on the second floor to the Class A classroom on the third floor. If she ran, she could make it. Oh my goodness, man. Oh my gosh. Akko clicked her tongue disappointedly. What disturbed Toyomaru was that it didn't sound like an empty threat. I. She was halfway out the room before she even finished her sentence. Yo, these high school girls are different, bro. What is wrong with her? Poor Tobimaru. What a character, huh? Finally all alone, Tobimaru closed the open door, locked it, and slumped into a chair. He leaned back in the creaky folding chair and let out a sigh. Oh, Zaki-kun. The weather outside was beautiful, but the sunlight waned early in the winter. For long, daylight would fade and the unheated student council room would grow colder and colder. All the good equipment, like the heater, had ended up in the main office, so he had no choice but to set out for a chilly afternoon. After a somewhat suggestive monologue, Toyomaru's mind drifted. Halley wondered to himself whether Souyjuro was an overcast day or a clear day sort of guy, but no answers came. This man is ride or die for Souyjuro. That's so crazy. The scene has changed. We are outside of the school. Alrighty. Let's see how long I can go. How long? Okay, an hour and 30. You know, we'll see how it goes. School day was over. Souyjuro headed straight to his job. While the school had approved his job at the Chinese restaurant and fish market in Misaki shopping district, there was other work he hadn't mentioned to them. It was not because he knew that they would complain at him working too many, rather because of the illicit nature of one of the job in particular. Today, his workplace was a pachinko parlor in front of Yashirogi Station. Sojo changed out of his school uniform and into a black faux tuxedo uniform. They began cleaning the storefront. Yashirogi was the jewel of Misaki City, a busy place with a vast assortment of commercial centers and shopping arcades. Where there were people en masse, there were products made en masse. En masse, there you go. A romantic might describe it as a place of joy. A realist would note the free enterprise, and a cynic would point out at all the garbage. Oh, here. Oh, goodness. Local authorities had attempted to beautify Yashirogi, but there was one basic tenet in society they can never overcome. This establishment was the embodiment of that rule. Businesses such as these attracted the dregs of society, and as such, the front of the parlor had to be cleaned several times a day. Souyjuro stood outside in a winter coat, sweeping up used cigarette butts, picking up discarded flyers, and tossing empty cans into the trash. Something about it must have reminded him of mountain life, because he cheerfully finished the job with ease. After making sure the storefront was acceptably clean, he returned to inside the parlor where it was nice and warm. Blinding lights, deafening sounds, and the oppressive odor of tobacco assaulted him as he passed through the parlor on his way to the office. His boss was a good-natured man who used to work at the desk. The reason he employed someone like Souyjuro, even though he was clearly a student, was not because he admired him for working his way through school. It was because all the other employees were scary and intimidating, and he wanted at least one employee who was not. Hearing that, Souyjuro put away his cleaning equipment and headed upstairs. It was a typically large-scale pachinko parlor with 2 floors. It prided itself on being a local establishment that was satisfied with taking locally, or little by little without resorting to more exploitative means. But regardless of the parlor's intentions, its customers were not so scrupulous. Among them were casual players, professional gamblers, and cheaters looking to profit by exploiting whatever loopholes they could find. Of particular prevalence was a device developed in the mid-80s that could disrupt the machine's circuitry from the outside and make it much easier to get what was called a 777 jackpot. As much as the parlor wanted to deny these cheaters entry, it needed to present hard evidence of cheating, or risk losing customers. Particularly in the service industry, innocent to proving guilty was not a rule taken lightly. As a result, they could only punish the customers they caught in the act. Such cheaters were known as Gatoshi, a slice of society which Souyjuro knew nothing about. What he did know was that they were inconveniencing his employer and violating the rules. He went upstairs. The radio and the game machine sounds on the second floor were quieter than the cacophony downstairs. There were 100 game machines on the ground floor and over 80 on the second. But there were some empty seats here. Some empty seats here and there. It was a solid evening turnout. The machine mentioned by his boss was in the center aisle. Souyjuro nonchalantly leaned back against the wall and watched the customer hit the jackpot over and over again. Oh, I had a feeling it was going to be you. The second he saw her, his gut told him that she was not cheating. He still was not sure what made someone a master swindler, but if it meant they were special, this woman certainly fit the description. It was almost as if he could feel the luck emanating from her. As the customers locked on, she slowly turned the handle again and again. She appeared older than Souyjuro. She wore a green, form-fitting one-piece dress. A pair of stockings covered her legs. Her slender legs were gracefully crossed, and her elegance suited a painting better than a casino. Her dark reddish hair was cut short in a bob, perfectly framing her stylish spectacles and crimson lips. Truth be told, something was off about her picturesque beauty, ringing the jackpot over and over again. 4 boxes worth of pachinko balls sat at her feet, and her winning streak showed no sign of abating. She looked bored as her slender porcelain fingers lifted a long cigarette to her lips. Just as that thought crossed his mind, her gaze turned to the wall, and Souyjuro. Suddenly, a chill ran down his spine. He reflexively covered his mouth to keep from shrieking. Oh man. He headed straight downstairs. Excuse me. Acting on pure instinct, Souyjuro took off running. He headed straight downstairs, desperate to not be seen on the same floor as her. He would have run straight out the door, but for his obligations to his job. He tried to keep his composure as he spoke, jamming his school uniform into a paper bag as he ran out the parlor. Cloudy weather brought the shadow night over Yashirogi as he ran through the shopping arcade toward the station. He shot up a long staircase like an arrow, quickly pulled his train pass from his wallet, and passed through the ticket gate. The ticket gate was crowded with people standing around, walking and talking. I think I'm crazy, but it's been a while since I played. So this scene that he's talking about, genuinely, could not have any idea what he's talking about. But I know it isn't anything crazy because the game didn't skip anything. I picked up where I last left off, so it shouldn't be anything crazy, but here's to see. Or we're gonna see. But yeah, the ticket gate was crowded with people standing around, walking and talking. The station attendant by the automatic ticket machine had an unpleasant look on his face. There was now a familiar, comforting hustle and bustle around him. It was another day in the city. Nothing like what he witnessed the night before. He could finally breathe again. Momentary rush of relief brought him to an abrupt stop. An abrupt stop. There you go. He nervously turned around. There was no way that dangerous individual could be behind him. Ah, so that's why it happens. Okay, so when I swipe right and hold when I swipe right and hold left click, fast forwards. Swipe left and do the opposite. Swipe left and hold left click, goes back. That's cool. Anyways, he couldn't think of a good reason for why he fled so desperately. As for how he could remember, he hadn't even seen the Dart's face long enough to form an opinion on her. Souyjuro gave himself a good slap on the cheek to pull himself together and quickly made his way down to the platform. Fortunately, the next train was 10 minutes away, and panicking would do him no favors, so he quietly found an empty seat and sat down. He took another deep breath. He was surrounded by people waiting for the train just like he was, and no sign of anyone pursuing him. His head finally cleared up, and he assured himself that he was overthinking things. He was surprised at how heavy his shoulders felt. Souyjuro sighed at his greater than expected fatigue. He had certainly struggled since coming down from the mountains, but in retrospect, it could have been worse. Physically, he was probably holding up fine. He was much less confident in his mental state. The city in the mountains could not have been any more different. He had been slow to recognize the differences and adapt. Acclimation was simple enough. Humans were nothing if not adaptable. Even without any effort, one will learn to adjust over time. Recognizing the challenges had been the hard part. Souyjuro grumbled a complaint he never uttered before. To be honest, he was still afraid to wander around town. Wander. There's so many things city people took for granted Souyjuro had yet to grasp. It was a little wonder that this never-ending chain of surprises would wear on him. He muttered to himself, then shook his head. That which exists. Such was the way of all things. Toyomaru had called it a hallucination, but Souyjuro knew what he saw was real. The city was a magical kingdom compared to the mountains. If there was a real magician secretly living here, that should have been no surprise at all. Little does he know. Little does he know. That alone made his legs tremble. It took him a moment longer to realize that they were quivering out of fear. He had feared the unnatural ever since he encountered a wild bear on a mountain path as a child. So just smiled a little as he recalled his wow. So just smiled a little as he recalled his traumatic childhood memory. And he would have fainted at the sudden appearance of a growling beast that towered over 6 feet tall. The monster in the movie that Souyjuro saw not 2 days ago was the equivalent of a cuddly stuffed animal when compared to the wild mountain creatures. He was reminded that he'd faced far worse before, and his ordeal now was something he could endure. At face value, the meaning was obvious, but the implications were simply too frightening to contemplate seriously. Perhaps he had misheard the words, or perhaps he heard the speaker misspeak. Yeah, whatever. Deal out punishment eventually. As he said it, the idea didn't quite feel real. It was hard to imagine that it applied to him. Souyjuro breathed in and closed his eyes. His vision dimmed, pulling the illuminated cityscape out of sight and out of mind. For now, he resolved to put last night's events behind him. When he opened his eyes, his breathing had calmed. Question suddenly popped into Sojuro's head. He decided he would ask next time, stood up from his chair. The long streak of light blazed by, announcing the arrival of the next train. That's funny that Soujiro and Tobimaru both had a question for each other. Oh, I thought the game crashed for a second. I'm about to say. Alright. Safe. That's funny. There you go. Tea time 3, huh? Alrighty. Well then, let's see. What's the archive do? Ah, these are the chapters. Alrighty. Start the next episode and see how far I can go. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Yeah, I've definitely not been streaming for 3 hours. Let me check this myself. Okay. 1 hour and 47. I got a little bit more in me. I think I'll do one more scene before I stop streaming. Let me tell you how the events of yesterday transpired. On moonless nights, we must never look back. Was it a lesson or was it a warning? It was so very long ago. A time I could not have imagined what my very being would become. One night, it came without warning. I was filled with an anxiety so heightened that it made me want to burst into tears. So I fled to my grandfather's workshop. Like the grandfather I knew, he smiled and kindly placed his hand upon my head. Yes, the right death flows, or follows, you every step. Rather than consoling me, he sent me home with only those haunting words. That night I was certain that I sensed a shadow lurking behind me. Something or someone was watching me from afar. And little by little, year by year, it drew closer. Eventually, the presence that once felt like a spot on the horizon grew so close that I could feel its breath down the base of my neck. Of course, it was all in my mind. When I turned around, nobody was there. But that night marked the beginning. In hindsight, I later understood that the indescribable anxiety I felt was the dread of certain death. How much time has passed since that night? And lingered deep in the recesses of my mind where my childhood memories are kept. A faded storybook-esque memory. On dark nights, I still hear the faint echo of my grandfather's words. But no matter how strong the wind may howl, or how entrancing the song of a girl next to me, I can never bury his ominous words completely. The girl beside me said. Alice's inflectionless voice spoke volumes as a rose bystander. That night, it was only me and her. It was the night I would mark as the birth of who I am today. For what should have been quite the memorable night, it wasn't a promising start. Dense clouds blocked the starlight above like an umbrella. Strong wind tore through the sky, carrying the heavy clouds with it. The hands on the clock in the middle of the park pointed skyward, as if reaching for the moon. Unfortunately for them, tonight there was no moon to point at. The winter air grew fiercer as the night wore on. Inhaling felt as though it would freeze me from the inside. The air chilled me to the bone. Boing. The air chilled me to the bone, threatening to pass up my spine directly to my brain. To prevent my mind from being paralyzed. Oy. Oy. And to prevent my fingertips from becoming stone. SOS. Somebody rescue me. I sparked the fire using my internal rhythm and emotion. I responded to Alice with a nod, and then, just for a moment, I saw the ground. My legs quivered ever so faintly. I told myself they were shaking from the cold, but I wasn't sure. In reality, they may not have been numbed by the cold, but by fear. I breathed out a sigh of relief. My humanity may still be intact if my emotions are still present. SOS. Somebody rescue me. Hi. Oh, okay. Give me a second. I'm just really a little tired. I got too many gal. They can fit in one SUV. Alright. Alright. Before I could sink into a pool of my own sentimentality, the sensations from the battlefield flowed from Alice to me, or into me. A transparent wall covered the entire park, and a recognizable carpet rooted deeper under the earth. Alice cool chants of the Mother Goose fairy tales permeated the night. The sensation became one with my body. I felt goosebumps on my quivering right arm. Someone had trespassed. Goosebumps crept up my right arm like ants, and slowly but surely made inroads for my heart. Holding back the desire to drive them out, I waited for them to reach a certain, definitive position. A moonless night. The park's quaint streetlights were not enough to lift the darkness. The ants came to a stop, far, far from my right arm. They reached my very heart. Excuse me. Even without the aid of my sense of sight, I could see the intruder lurking in the darkness. To starboard, in the bushes about 30 steps back, on all fours, it was beckoning with his right hand. The enemy's movement and my perception of it were in lockstep. I spun around. The enemy's arm stretched out like a spear. This lethal weapon, aimed at the back of my head, brushed my hair at breakneck speed. With the omniscient awareness granted by Alice's word, I managed to avoid it by the skin of my teeth. My hair fanned through the air from the violence of the attack. The strike grazed my cheek, and it felt a small, sharp pain. It felt like the kiss of death. I switched the flow of my body's blood to a different style. The blood running through my veins at a few feet per second transmuted into an imaginary element. My body became a single circuit, and my heart transferred into a completely different engine. Within me stirred an unknowable motion of immeasurable heat, something mystic yet untapped by humankind, that made me who I am. It was the fire of life behind all miracles and fables. Or we may just call magical energy. I turned around, set the enemy in my sights, and held up one hand. My arm was an agent on my wall. My lack of experience by my magecraft would only be possible with the use of vocalizations and gestures. Magical formulae were engraved all over the park. All I had to do was ignite them. I needed to direct the flow of magical energy within my body into each formula. Typically, a mage acts as a conduit. Whether wired or wireless, the mage simply pours magical energy into a formula, releasing this energy in the form of a projectile, stream, or any number of other methods would usually suffice. But in my case, it was like the feeling of my limbs whipping out. I fought speed with speed. The enemy's arm extended 10 feet forward, became engulfed in flames. It was at nighttime at the park, a scene reminiscent of a campfire, but one in which the center of the flames contained a humanoid figure wriggling around like a shadow, swinging like a shadow puppet. Excuse me. SOS. The flames subsided just as naturally as they had ignited. No crackling, no burning smell. After telling this to Alice, I headed toward the motionless figure. I killed it. I killed it. I killed it. Regardless of how my opponent, or regardless of who my opponent was, I just took someone's life. My throat parched. Yeah, same here, I understand. My throat parched. I saw the truth that without this sense of reality, I would have been helpless. So hard and bitter, impossible to swallow. But I tried to anyway. I was unnervingly calm. My heart pounded and my breath felt heavy, but my mind was nonetheless calm. By the time I realized it, the charred remains were already in front of me, bracing for a counterattack. Oi, man. I carefully examined the corpse. Everything seemed fine. His body lying slumped to the ground was nothing but ash. Something wasn't right. To begin with, its remains didn't smell organic. Not wanting to believe my hunch, I took a closer look at the corpse's face. All that greeted me was the featureless white face of a mannequin. Screaming, I kicked the mannequin. The corpse crumbled to ash and disappeared with the wind. No, this is no corpse. It's just a puppet. For all our efforts to lure the master out, we had once again been tricked by a familiar. My debut, my first test out in the open, we postponed for another day. That moment, suddenly noticed something familiar in the corner of my eye. Something seemed strange about the slide on the other end of the park. It appears though its shadow was larger than it should be. Was I still drunk on the high of battle? It took me a second to realize what it was. Calling out was a mistake. Startled by my own voice, the figure wearing a familiar high school uniform took a step back and then it broke into a sprint, like someone running for their life. Should I say, he was doing exactly that. In a rush, I shouted at my partner, but she hadn't even noticed the third party's presence in the first place. It wasn't as if I could move on myself. Embarrassingly, the fight had taken more out of me than I would have liked. There was no time for niceties. For us, being seen here was a matter of life and death. Shaking off the numbness in my legs, I made for the park's exit. Had to admire his escape. The witness, prior to the entire night's proceedings, had disappeared into the darkness of the residential district without a trace. Complaining to myself wouldn't bring back the figure in the uniform, but on my own incompetence, I gave up the chase. The temporary, the park had become Alice's woods. For anyone within a few feet of the park, other parkour's identifiable features and voices became murkier. Like the stuff of a fairy tale. Night's proceedings may have had a witness, but if other identities were still hidden, then this was still a chance. I returned to the park. The uniform was, without doubt, from my high school. That was clue enough. She was a schoolmate of mine. I had plenty of methods to flesh him out. I missed my grumbling. I set my priorities straight. For some strange rumor spread, and he said the witness's mouth shut. That was the highest priority. Quickly, for that mercy. Wait. Looking up, I saw Alice, previously distant figure. But she was in as much trouble as I was with her since the maze also exposed. She had but one thing to say. Her statue-like figure staring into the darkness seemed more expressionless than calm. I was pissed off. Her inscrutable voice resembled the moonless night so much it made me angry. Oh, that was the interlude. Or, wait, what? That was episode 3? That was barely anything. Alrighty, cool. Alright. Well, that's a sign. That's wholeheartedly a sign. I am stopping here for now. 100% stopping here for now. But, yeah, I'm really tired. I am really tired. But, yep, thank you. I hope you enjoyed. Oh, I just lose a subscriber. Oh no, it's just that this page is I have to refresh it. But yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. To the 3 people or 2 people watching, since I'm one of them. Hopefully, be streaming this game again soon. If not, then it's whatever. Well, when it comes, when it comes. But yeah, see you all later. Thank you for stopping by in the stream, and yeah, I'll check you out.